For those of you that are new here, I am a big fan of Armareforger, one of my favorite milsims, and I like realism. So I thought, what if I made a realistic version of Armareforger Geopolitics? So let's get into the video. Lore dump. So the FIA are a independent force in our scenario because Armareforger does not have, well, at least the wiki does not have a lot of info on them other than they're just an independent force. So what I've decided to do is say in this scenario, the FIA are the region's initial kind of military, because this does take place in a fictional island in near the Czech Republic at the time. So the FIA, they're controlling their land for years now, and they decide we're going to make a deal with Russia, right? We're a small independent nation, we need some money, some military backing for sure. And then a couple of, months go by, years go by, Russia's doing all right, but you feel like they're kind of taking you over. They're not just giving you assistance, they're taking your land, they're taking your women, your money, your booze. And so you start to get a little ticked by this. So you kind of let the Russian Federation know that you're not really liking it. USSR sends you a message back, fuck you. So now the Russian forces start to occupy your land. They want to take it. They want to take everything. So they start doing these, clearings and sweeps to get rid of initial FIA members. And then they do this a couple of dozen times, wipe out most of the FIA forces, and they seize the main airport on the island. And now that they have the main airport, they're able to provide comforts as medical aid, sleeping arrangements, so they start to expand. As well as they have a main point to fly in equipment, guns, machinery, tanks, and they slowly start to push back the FIA. But the FIA has a plan, damn it. The FIA always has a plan. They're fighting like guerrillas now. The FIA then starts making bases with what little equipment they still have into different mountaintops, landscapes, you name it, fighting like guerrillas. The FIA would frequently set up roadblocks and ambushes in order to not only dismantle the Russian supply line, but also seize it to benefit themselves, such as commandeering vehicles and repainting them. One of the FIA's favorite tactics was urban sniping. Just like how in the 80s, up until even as recently as today, IRA members used to urbanly snipe British troopers. Oftentimes, by committing Geneva's suggestions and putting on enemy uniforms, they would be able to sneak into enemy depots, planting mines, anti-tank mines, and explosives all over vehicles, supplies, and even command tents, therefore disrupting the supply line and disrupting integrity of the supplies. After building more depots and earning more equipment, the FIA set up a good little arsenal for themselves, now in the remnant guerrilla stage. So they decided to plot more attacks against the Russians. But as they were plotting attacks against the Russians, a little war crime slash humanitarian crime and a crime against humanity happened just on that island. After the multiple attacks by the FIA, the Russians went town to town, trying to round up anyone that knew information about the FIA. But not a lot of people wanted to speak on it, and a couple did, so they set an example out of the entire town, killing about 25 people in that massacre. The Russians had royally pissed off the FIA and the inhabitants of the island. Therefore, the FIA reached out to, well, let's just say the US of A. The US, with their hands tied due to current global conflicts in the 80s, they didn't want anything to do with what was going on. But they did. So they went ahead and they sent in 2 CIA operatives to, well, scout out the place and see how bad it's really going. Held up in a house nearby a lake, they ended up setting a little base camp up, blending in with the civilians, only having their M16s as protection, as well as having a radio set up so they can communicate what's going on to their handlers. After a couple of days, the CIA agents went up and checked out the site of the massacre. That way they could report proper intel to high command. While that was happening, the FIA got carpet bombed by the Russians, leaving very few survivors, as well as very few machineries. So, they had to get a little creative. Through the CIA, they were able to not only manufacture firearms, as well as grow illegal substance plants. Thanks, YouTube, for making me say that. In order to fund their war effort, the CIA would use the guns in other wars to not get traced back to them, and the drugs would help fund everything else. And with the remnants of the FIA, they would start to do coalition attacks against the Russians when they could, but mostly teaming up with the US, which leads us to where we're at today, Armareforger multiplayer. Hope you liked the video. If you have any hints, suggestions, or anything like that, or if you want to see a part 2 where I do the main map, go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment. Other than that, see ya.
Light him up.
I don't have eyes, don't have eyes. 10 kills up.
Alright, we gotta pull off. They're gonna hit us with RPGs.
Oh, I got him. I got his rotor. He's
Nice.
fucked.
Nice. Nice.